Hey guys, this video is about indoor plants, very easy indoor plants to grow without any much fuss. I'm going to talk about 4 different plants today, and I will also tell you about the conditions, what kind of sunlight, water, what kind of plant you should buy at the nursery, and also about the repotting of these plants. So first one is the golden pothos. This is the golden pothos. It is generally a very fast growing plant and it trails very nicely. You can also make it grow on the top like a climber, or it can also trail. This plant requires bright indirect sunlight. You shouldn't be giving it direct sunlight. If you give it direct sunlight, as you can see, some of the leaves here are kind of burnt. You can see these brown patches. So these kind of burns happen. So these generally require indirect bright sunlight. And do not overwater them. Overwatering is one of the great mistakes of indoor plants. You have to water them only when the soil is completely dry. So check the soil, go 1 inch deep inside the soil, put your finger, and then once you see that the soil is completely dry, then you can water it. So generally the watering conditions is about around a week to 10 days mostly. If your soil is a very well drained soil, it does not hold much moisture, then you might want to water them often. Otherwise, definitely not less than 10 days. While buying pothos, make sure that in the nursery they are pretty fresh, green and nice, a healthy looking plant. You can check the tips of the plant. So make sure the tips don't have any brown tips. It's all fresh and green like this. And also you must check the root condition. So you have to check if it is root bound or not by gently removing the plant, just to make sure the quality of the plant is good. Also you can check the bottom. From the hole you can check if the roots are coming out, then that means it is root bound. And pretty easy. It's a fast grower. I've been having this since a month and it is growing really well. So you can just keep this anywhere, just right in front of the window, closer to the window, or in a bright lit room, and it will do well. Make sure that you don't keep this in any position where it gets direct sunlight. That's all. So it's a very easy plant to grow. The second plant on my list is the ZZ plant. It has a very nice dark green leaves. This is a fresh one which has come up now. It's a very easy plant to take care of. So similar to pothos, this also requires just bright or low light. It can do well even in low light conditions. And the watering conditions are exactly same. Don't water or overwater it. Water it only when the soil is completely dry, and just bright light. You can put it in front of a window or a bright room, or even low light conditions. This is going to thrive. And the potting and when you're buying a plant, make sure it is healthy. Look at the leaves and the stem. And when you look at the stem, you can make out if there are any black patches on the stem, that means the plant is not very healthy. So you might not want to buy them. Also, make sure you don't keep this in a position where you get bright sunlight, direct sunlight. It's because if you put it in a place where you get direct sunlight, then the leaves will burn. So something like this. So that's a mistake which I did initially, and now I've realized and moved it a little away, and it's doing well. Then the fourth plant on our bucket is the peace lily. So yeah, and it has beautiful white flowers like this. It blooms very well and it's a nice plant. So again, peace lily is one plant which you might have to be slightly little more careful with respect to watering, because it tends to get these kind of brown tips very easily. So if you overwater them, or irregular watering can cause this. But again, the same conditions apply here. Don't overwater them. Water them only when the soil is completely dry. You have to give it like around a week to 10 days to dry up for pot size of this much, which is around 8 inches pot. So that's how it needs watering. While buying a plant at the nursery, make sure that it does not have any brown tips. The leaves are looking healthy and fresh. They have very soft, subtle leaves, and if you keep them very close to a bright window where maybe you might not even get direct sunlight, but if it's too bright, then it so happens that it tends to burn the leaves of the plant. So the leaves start to curl up. I'm not sure if you can see here, the leaves tend to curl up like this. So it's good if you don't keep them very close to a window. Just keep it slightly far away, at least 3 feet away from the window, and it's gonna do well. And then the fourth plant on my list here is Sansevieria, also called as the snake plant. It has very thick leaves. It's really almost like plastic. It's very thick. Again, water it only when the soil is completely dry. Bright light, it does well even in low lighting conditions. So you can put it slightly in places where it is dark. It will still do well. And yeah, while buying, make sure that it's not root bound. And what if you forget to water it for about 2 weeks, it's still gonna thrive. It will do well. So these are the 4 basic indoor plants, which is very easy to grow. Now, with respect to watering, what do I mean by overwatering or underwatering? So you need to water these plants in such a way that when the soil is completely dry, you have to water it thoroughly, such that at least 20% of the water what you have added should come out. That means you have watered it well. Make sure you give enough water so that the water reaches all the way to the bottom of the pot, and all the small roots which is trying to grow till the bottom is going to absorb all the water. So make sure that you have a well drained hole in the pot so that there is enough space for the water to come out. So something like this, a big hole. And make sure you don't put soil directly onto the hole, otherwise it's going to clog. So put a few pebbles or stones or something which will allow the water to flow through it. And another important tip about pots. Generally, we tend to buy plants in the nursery and then we immediately repot them, which is not good for the plants. These plants would be in a different condition in the nursery, and when you bring it home, it will be a totally different condition. So they undergo shock. You don't want to give them more shock by repotting these plants. So make sure you keep them in the same pot for at least 15 days and then repot it only if it is necessary. Especially the Sansevieria, it will undergo a shock, and its growth will be pretty stagnant if you repot it. And when you're repotting, be very careful so that you don't damage the roots, and repot it only if it's absolutely needed. Otherwise, I wouldn't suggest you to repot it. Another quick tip to make your plants look healthy and fresh is to pot them in smaller pots. It happens that when you put them in smaller pots, it kind of feels nice about it, and it tends to grow well. And if you are repotting them, make sure that you just repot them in 1 or 2 sizes larger than the existing pot, not more than that. If you put it in a big pot, it would have a lot of soil. A lot of soil will accumulate a lot of moisture. It will hold a lot of water, and the chances are you might maybe the roots would get rot. So yeah, so just make sure you keep them in the same pot when you buy from the nursery. If you want to repot it, maybe repot it after 15 to 20 days from you bought the plant, and then it'll do all good. Also, these plants are very good air purifiers. A research conducted by NASA has proven that they purify air to a great extent. So for a mid-sized house, I would suggest you to have around 7 to 8 mid-sized plants, which will do a good job to your house. Also, not to scare you, these plants are slightly toxic, so you shouldn't be consuming them. So you should see to it that they are away from children and pets and they don't consume it. Even if you consume them by chance, you would show some kind of allergic symptoms if you consume like a lot, like maybe 10 to 15 leaves, then you might develop some kind of an allergic reaction to them. That's it. And make sure they are in a temperature condition which is like room temperature. They don't like the temperature to be either too cold or too hot. It might burn them or the plant might be shivering. So yeah. So I hope this video was helpful and informative, and it has encouraged you all to buy more plants and grow plants. That's it for now. Bye.